Well,
Yeah, go.
Back in the 30s, we did, I see that she started, and then, this might have been, no, this wasn't in the 30s. This could have been, Nellie was born in 1932. Nellie is our daughter. So that's over, I think it's Hannibal, isn't it? Yeah, Hannibal, the girl. Really, it has been but starting out, when I was 14 years old, my father was killed in a coal mine. I had a sick mother, a younger sister, and 2 younger brothers. Then, somebody had to work. That's all they was. They wasn't no welfare, raise, or all that stuff. Just somebody just had to go to work. And in this case, it was me. So I had to quit school and go to work. And my father was killed in his own coal mine. So naturally, I took over his footsteps, or tried to. Of course, I couldn't do that, but I did. When I was 17, I'd already done everything in the mine, everything there was to do. This is unusual, because a miner is usually, he does one thing. He mines coal, or he loads coal, or he lays track, or he drives a mule. You know, he just that's what he does, you know. Very few men ever done it all, but I did. And the University of Missouri has got it on tape now that I'm the only man that ever did that at all at the coal mine. I run the horse, whatever, you know, that just simply done it all. Of course, while I was, before I become a mine foreman, though, I was a machine runner. I drove the wheel, I laid track, and just wherever just filled in, wherever it had to be, what I done. And, let's see, I worked in the mines until 42. And, going to this day, well, I did quit. Well, I'll tell you another mine story. I was driving the mule, and this is just only because of the grace of God that I'm here today. And this staff is we call it elevators, you would call them, but we call them cages in the mine. After the coal or whatever, up and down, one past the other, middle ways of the shaft, you know. And there's just one man left living. One is just to be the truth. And he is in a nursing home called, but there was 6 witnesses to this. And what it was, you would understand that you know the size of an elevator. This will understand that. So they would be the size of 2 elevators, so they're side by side. And when this one was down, the others got clear in the temple, so ran up there, would take the car pull off up there, and I'd put one on down here. They got down 200 feet down the line. And so I was on a Friday evening, and didn't go to work the next day because I had too much coal stocked up. Everything was full of coal. And it's kind of like the automobile manufacturers, you know, when they get you in the automobile, they want me through, that's quit. So that's what this was. But anyway, they were holding the coal on top. They had a track run off out, you know, and they'd just throw these cars out on that track. And that way we were handling empty cars. You know, they was holding everything, so all I had to do was just drop on the cage and get them off. And so that just took the coal, and there was 3 in there. And I said to them, the foreman, I said, you get on there and get out of there, get out of my way, I want to make another trip. That was go back into the mine and come out with another 10 or 12 cars of coal. So we got on the cage, and I got them off. And I brought a car. This bottom was on a slope, so the cars were almost over themselves. You had to hold them back, you know, so you could cage them faster. One man could handle it faster. And that car got away, and it hit underneath this cage where it was around me. It was a 12 or 15-foot sump, and that sump was full of water. And they had drugs that day, and it was the cage was shutting down. But as drugs out, just soon as we got through Houston Coal, they didn't want to stop Houston Coal to draw that water, and especially when we wasn't going to work the next day. And I was standing in front of it, waiting for the kids to come down before the latch. It locked them on there. It would throw on one side, but it wouldn't the other, on my side. Then he'd take them off up there. And I was waiting for it to come down. I would catch it just as it got in sight and throw it in the train and drop the charcoal off. That charcoal got loose, hit me, and really jumped on top of it. And I felt this way, I could feel the drawbar on the front of the car lodged in the sump, the wall of the sump. And there's nothing, I was just banging in the air over my head, you know, the car had me caught in the head. And anyway, to me I drowned it because I just, everything just went, you know, gone. And this cage wasn't even down. This cage was still up in the shaft. Maybe that much room around the outside of it. Well, no man could ever go through that. And they said that the telephone rang when we stopped at the ground and let these men off. And the engineer answered the telephone, which was right there by me. He didn't need to answer, but he just didn't do anything else. He just grabbed the phone and one of the wall phones, and they had it sitting right there. And Miss Lichtenberg was the woman that was calling orders coal. Thank God she did at that time. And anyway, while he was talking to her, they heard me holler and say, Uncle Steve, house me out. He was the engineer, Uncle Steve was. And of course everybody heard it. These young men I started out, and of course Uncle Steve and others. And he said, well, I don't know what to do. So he hollered back and got no answer. And he said, I don't know what to do. And he said, I don't know whether to leave that cage or not. So they talked it over and they said, well, he couldn't be under that cage because he's up in the shaft. There's no way, there's absolutely no way that he could any way is that cage could die. But still they couldn't get no answer to, they'd holler back. So he started real slow, and he had to lay down for ears for him. So any noise made at all, while they'd stop, he'd stop him from moving the cage. When he came up with it, I was laying in a pile in the middle of that cage. The mystery is how did I get on it? I mean, this is the how did I get out from under the charcoal with it sealed something tight. You know, there's a piece of it. And there it's set for that whole closed. Then here I was on that cage, it was impossible to get on. So the Lord just had a lot of things for me to do. And that wasn't one of the times for me to go. But anyway, I went ahead with mine work until the mine closed, and then I went over to Buckland. I worked in the Buckland mine, and then Supers. You've heard of the Supers coal mines in Brookfield? No. Well, when I quit Buckland, Dorothy said, just make me the kit. She said, you can do so many other things. And we was farming. And I said, well, all right, I won't go back no more. So, of course, I put out a crop up here. Along in August, Mr. Schaefer was having trouble. He thought cutting the coal, but it started in, it's actually underlining it, so we have a machine that does that. But it takes a lot of skill to really operate a mining machine successfully. I mean, you see when I can cut what we call a clod that deep, that's all got to be handled straight. Or you can cut up into coal and that makes it too thin, you know, cut the coal away. So there's a lot of things to run the machine. And he was having a lot of trouble. He was having clod, he was having the coal cut away. He wasn't getting nothing done. He had men laid off, probably with no fish on the work. So I was putting up soybeans out here on the farm. I had dinner, and he come over here and asked Gordon what I was. He told me. And really and truly, in January of 36, we lost a little girl by fire. And we owed the funeral bill. Not all of it, but we owed some of it. And anyway, why, Mr. Super come out there. Now you can hire a good carpenter for 10 cents an hour. I ain't gonna do it. And he said, if you come over and run the machine for me, he said, I'll give you 50 cents an hour. And he said, you work all the hours you want to work. We go work 3 o'clock and we could work till 7 if we wanted to the next morning. And so I studied about it and I thought, oh my goodness, 50 cents an hour? And we do it. And I said, well, there's really one thing. William, and I said, I just can't just tell you yet. I said, I just have to look off the door for you. I said, I was telling her that I wouldn't go back to the mine. And I said, it's going to be a shock to her when I tell her I am going back. So, anyway, of course, I was out there with 2 of my horses. And he brought me into the truck. And we talked it over. And she felt just like I did. Boy, it was 50 cents an hour. And then all the hours I wanted to work, and you bet I was going to work all of them. And so, anyway, we did that. I went to work for him. And he flipped a new line, and I opened a new line. And again, I was in there by myself. And I had a bad place in there, and I knew better than to do what I was doing. I thought, well, I can get fixed and save him, calling another man and all this. And of course, that was wrong, and I knew it was. I knew better. You do something and you know better, and then it's your fault. But anyway, I pulled a prop, and here come a rock, and went from my head to my toe. And I was going to learn mine. And I thought, oh my goodness. But the mining machine went, and this little dirt out from the mining clay out from the coal was in a little chip. And I seen I could kind of wiggle a little, kind of twist my body a little. And I twisted, and that was good, and I worked my way out from under that rock.
I'll let these marks take place according to where you go on. Okay. I don't want it'll help our class out a lot. Okay. I'm sorry.
So, I come home about, well, one of the early boys, but you probably heard the early name when I was up Fire Creek, it would have been his uncle. Was there at the mine, and of course World War II had broke out. And he worked at the mine, and he was leaving to go down there and did get killed in the service. And this was the last visit I had with him. So I come out of the mine, and he was there. Because he's come to get his check and, get squared away for the service. So anyway, he said, what are you going to do out this time of day? And I said, I'm going home. If I can find a way, and I said, I'm going to try to call Dorothy pretty soon, and see if she can come get me. Oh, no, he said, I'll take you home. He said, how are you say you're here now? And he said, I'll just take you home. So he brought me home about 11 when I got here. And of course, I took my bath, cleaned up, and had the old house in, of course. And so I went in, was reading the paper, and Dorothy said, just about the time she said it, Kansas City paper, I opened it up, and there was a big ass Standard Oil Company had in there. I didn't know about Standard Oil Company, and just I just used to use the Standard Oil Company like everybody else would. And Dorothy said, what are you going to do now? And I said, well, I'm going to go work for Standard Oil Company.
How did you met childhood? Is that your childhood story?
No, this is later.
Oh, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it was really curious. And boy, we sure done the business, I guess he told you that. And, but anyway, I thought, well, that's a good idea. I'm going to call him up, see. going on. And I did, and they wanted to interview the next day in St. Joe, and I went, and they hired Springfield, Illinois, and they hired me. So I went to San Juan, Pennsylvania. Well, of course, I think, sorry, maybe he's already told you the highlights of it, but this is when I first got to see this car. He was my first customer. And I'll tell you, I just think so much of him that it was just won't express it. And so anyway, I went on with that, and then I got a health problem, and I had to quit all over the drive, creek, you know, kind of ready to guess, even it was alone that I had trouble with. And so I quit, and let's see, what did I do? I went to work selling automobiles. I sold for real goods. I sold for him for, I guess 12 or 15 years, but I did other things in between. I was on the payroll all the time, but in 1948, I got in the hog business in a big way. And really, that was when I started buying the land out near Ponty. That was my cattle farm. I don't know if you knew that or not. I love those get that place to me. But anyway, why don't we cover some of this in here and get up to that? This would have been home before us, and Dorothy's got a real good friend over in Mississippi, along in Mississippi, over Hannibal, and they've been friends for 65 years, just real good friends, and of course we go over to see her, and that's what we were doing that day. That was down in the river. And this was a sister's reunion, and this is when I was working for the Standard Oil Company, and this was in St. Joe. By this time now, our office was moved from Quincy to St. Joe. This here was a little before that. That would have been in the buildings right out in our house now. And I don't know where that was at, but I just cutting up there. And I'm late for proposing, but now they told me that might be good. Oh yeah, I'm a cake baker too. He's a pilot. Did he tell you that? Well, I'm going to tell you, and you can get after him about that. Let's see. When I was in the dairy business. I had a kidney stone, and I had a lot of complications. Well, I was a long time getting over it. So I was in the house and just walking the floors, and one put the deal and going, "Why don't you let me cook?" Oh, I think nobody doesn't mind to cook. And so anyway, I thought, well, boy, what I'm doing. I said, well, you teach these things, sure will. So then I got into the cake baking, and boy, I did bake a lot of cakes. I'll tell you, I did. The German chocolate seemed to be, and that was too good. I don't know. I baked them for somebody that had died and was going to take them in the house. And that up there was just out in the yard. Here I am in the first airplane, like that. And I promoted by the airport Marceline too.
Yeah.
She did. And just made all sorts of fun of it. I was down South Carolina in the Capester. That's where I learned to fly, right down in South town. Now I'm going to tell you about Charlie. I went over to see Charlie one time. He lived on a farm over at Vineville. And this was a good, the other picture of this, it was really be something. In this airplane. That was that one. That was the one. And anyway, I was trying to get him some kind of message, but he couldn't understand it. So I landed. And this pastor, and run out, I was a bean field or a cornfield. It was this pasture. And it was froze when I went up, but by the time I got down there, flew around before I went, I guess, he tore it out. And that thing broke down the mud. So couldn't get the tractor wasn't gonna get up there, so he went to a neighbor and borrowed a team of horses. Now, this was, I was thinking a team of horses pulling in the blade out of mud. And he did, and pulled it back up in the pasture, and I took off from there. And,
That's good.
oh, something I knocked off. Oh, I see, I was pulling it. I'm good at that. But anyway, that was my experience. And of course, I took Charles his first ride, you know. He might know he didn't tell you, but he will. And, this hill. Now, this was taken before I knew horses. That was taken over Hannibal, that was too. She worked over there a while, and that's the main thing. And then, of course, she did. There's your little house that was here. And we lived in this little 10 by 10 here, when we built a new house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we lived in the East Coast. I don't want to go in, put all that into it. But there was a stairway went down into a cellar, and they're just 10 by 10. But she had a washing machine, a stove, hot water heater, kitchen table, and what else in there?
Refrigerator.
You had to work our way in there to run the table. But nevertheless, that's what we did. It's nice to remember it now, you know, think back about it. And, getting into here. Oh, now this is a T-roll. Curly was the oldest. Yeah, now this is Nellie, you know, my brother. Oh, that's Jasper. We had Jasper was a donkey. We had a live nativity out here. And we had sheep, we had everything, live people. And of course that was the donkey that was in it. That's Jasper. Jasper was by the donkey. And then of course here's Nellie, I guess, on her first bicycle. And I lived about half of my life one evening here in about 15 or 20 years. I got her this little bicycle, and I would say I wouldn't know how many trips I made around the house helping her on it, you know. But one evening when I come home from work, she had caught her balance, and oh, she was so proud because she was riding that bicycle. And of course, Dad was too. But I drove up by the house like we do now, a little house, but we didn't have no gravel, you know, so there was some ruts. And that wheel went down in that rut, and then it turned, and it threw her up over the top, and of course it knocked the wind out of it. But oh my goodness, I grabbed her up, I went in the house room, and before we called the doctor, he came out and checked her, and he said, well, she just had the wind knocked out of her. But Dr. Cutler, see, that was. And anyway, that was the bicycle experience.
Who was the doctors in town? Who were some of the old doctors?
Oh, Putnam.
Putnam.
There's old Putnam. And he died, and he was Ben, his son. And they both were, understood, outstanding doctors. Of course, Ben was 2 years older than me. And he was in an automobile accident just this Friday night. There was the snow on, and him and the rims and some more people, and went to Peachville,
Party, I think.
And he didn't want to go, but his sister did go, but he had a lady expecting to deliver a baby, and they called him, and I guess he was hurting too fast and slipped on the road. And really, he's the only one that's seriously hurt, and his was a head injury. And then they wanted to operate on, she had special, so I just shoot him out. And they said that they'd been operated, well, he'd been all right. But, of course, he had that problem, and that kind of did end his career. And, so he was a good doctor.
They
This
built
is
that
our
house
daughter.
where the rims
This is our
live
daughter,
now.
Nellie.
Where,
Ben Putman built that house where rims live now, right here on Lake Street.
oh, really? Me and Nikki are pretty good friends, because their daughter's on
Uh-huh.
This is little Nellie here, it's in the snow, and there she is, and she just no good. That was from the old house, see, it was there, and that was just a dirt road out there. And here she is up at the old hospital. Dorothy was in the hospital, and they dressed her up like a nurse up there and took her pictures, see.
Where was the old hospital at?
Before Chastain is, but then, see, when they did a hospital, when the sisters got it, well, they built on to it way back there. But in the beginning, just you tell by the color of the brick what the old part was. And,
She was getting vaccinated to go to school because I had appendicitis. And they dressed her up and give her that,
well,
you know.
see, the white shoes, when she was first started to walk, well, she had weak ankles. And, well, I'll tell you, it was really tough to get them shoes. They cost about $35, collecting shoes, but it was a very best leather. And, it was more than they were standing for nothing but white. And they cost more, but they were sure worth it. And, I'm just about as bad as she was, I guess, because it's the only one that I wanted her to have if we could find any money to get it. But, here she is 1958, but she sure don't look like that now. And then here she is in November of 80. Oh, I guess that was Pam's her hat. And, let's see, what we got there? Oh, this is Dorothy's sister. And her husband. This, well, here we raised him. We took him when he was 3 years old. And we made a electronic engineer of him. And he retired at 48 years old. They've got a beautiful home down on Table Rock, and they don't have nothing piped in. He's got his own electricity, his own water, he's got everything. And, but he looks older than I do, though. But
Worked for Avon.
when he designed computers that laid off 1,500 people. Can you imagine that? The computer's done the work of 1,500 people. And so I asked him, I said, just think of the hardships that you cause people. And he said, well, it's times. He said, that's where the times are. But that was the first fully computerized plant in the world, I guess. And he designed all the computers. It done it all. It filled the orders. It done the orders put in a computer up in front, and they'd distribute the information around all these other computers, and they'd fill that out and make the box and put it on the track. And when that box got up here, that order was there within that box. And they had Dorothy and I to come down there and took us all through the plant after they got it computerized, you know. And one of the engineers said, well, what our problem is that we can't get nobody to back him up. Said, something happens. The rest of us said, there's nobody to work on this stuff, and they don't know what to do. So he sat in there and designed a computer as big as that wall over there. But if you had a problem, he'd tell them where's that and what to do to fix it. Then they moved it to Georgia. And well, they offered him big wages to go, but he wouldn't do it. He just retired. And he went down there and built that place. But he's got a motel down there now. They weren't satisfied with just doing nothing, so they, well, and here he is, he had a dog, of course, that's out back of the old house, when he was little, and there he is with his sled on the snow, and he had a pet lamb, and boy, that thing was a nuisance if there ever was one. Then we got him a bicycle too. He had 2 or 3 bicycles though. And there he is there. There he is. That's one of this river too. So, but he was a lot more expensive than Nellie was. She went 2, 4, 5 automobiles and you never bought her any. This is Joe. This is Nellie's husband here.
Our son-in-law.
Yeah, and that's her oldest son. And I'm awful proud of her boys. They're both Shriners. And Joel was her oldest son, was the first nation in Missouri under 21 years old. He was the first North White Nation. He was the first Shriner. His brother come along 10 years later and done the same thing he did. When he was 19 years and 1 day, he was Shriner. And they really work at it, and I'm really proud of them. I'll tell you I am. They're really fine boys. Yeah, that's that's Joel. And he's one strong person too, I tell you. He's just great. And this is Randy here. That's second grandson. They're both of them all on Jasper. That's and there's Jill holding when he was a baby. Of course, this is one of Joe's chocolate cakes. And they were, here's quite a deal here. We took him on a 5,000-mile track. He was a little past 3 years old, Randy was. And we took him on a little over 5,000 miles up through the west. And just imagine taking that little guy, you know, he's close. But they both didn't know any difference. This is home, this name home up, you know, so they didn't know any difference. But we got home what they're doing there, they're showing off their boots. The oldest one, he was up there staying this through the summer before. So I told him he was going to make this trip, and I'd give him, he liked boots. I said, we're getting real cowboy boots. So, and drove about 400 miles out of the way to go try and good. So anyway, J.L. was getting on his boots, you know. And then he said, well, I don't want to go on some boots. And I said, well, yeah, of course you would. And these hats there they got on, we got them when we first started out. We got out in Nebraska somewhere. And neither one of them never asked for one thing on that whole trip. But of course, J.L. wanted his boots, I promised him. And so the clerk got Randy around there, another clerk did, and went to try and boots on him. Finally, he got, I guess, the right pair on him. He's got on now. And looked up, and he was 150 feet to the front door, and he was at the front door. So I hurried up to get up there, and he was half a block ahead of me, then going down the street, and I yelled at him, and I said, Randy, where are you going? Go to the car! So he got moved too. This is the little trailer they lived in while they built their new home in Richmond. Sorry.
There
JL.
should be some pictures in there of Charles and Geneva.
What's that
Huh?
picture?
Well,
Like
we're going to get a lot of them for the student talks in there. That's JL, though. That's all JL. Oh, that was taken there. That's that old Indian. He's dead now. Up in that Rushmore, with the faces. And
Is that Randy or J.L.?
it's JL. Randy was there, but first Randy didn't talk to him at first, you know.
But he's got his picture, we got his picture.
I had go to Jefferson City on business one day, and I was talking to Nellie, and so Randy, he got on the phone, and he said, when are we going to Washington? And he thought we was going to Washington, see. So I said, well, I told him, well, I want to go too, Grandpa. So anyway, this is here with the Capitol Steps, and down in Jeff City, though. And here Randy is talking to the old Indian face down here. And there he is digging a post hole. Here he is with a birthday cake, another German chocolate. Boy, I baked a lot of them, I'll tell you I have.
That's their favorite.
Now we're getting into this, as long as I was able to take care of, we only take cattle. We won't, I don't have that for, I guess, 4 years now. 5 maybe.
Over 5.
But,
I don't think you've had anything you've been diabetic. It's been 7.
this is, family. And here we are, who's cross. Where that's out west somewhere. And here we are again. See, that was again back in the 30s. Yep, that, maybe in the 40s. That might be 42 is the last cars they built from 48. There were no cars down in between there. So, and then here we are. Both of us is with the truck. There. His girlfriend's leaving and Kansas City shopping.
Somebody else took our pictures and will just give it to us.
Helen Hunt Falls, that's
We
in
went down on
Colorado.
the train.
Amtrak.
No, it was
We were
Dune.
all there by that time that goes back up in there.
That's while the war was going on.
Yeah, they had what they called a dual boat, that was just a thing on the railroad. It was engine and the freight car and the passenger, everything on one, you know. And we'd go to Kansas City every day, so they go up. This, that was my sister. And this is brother up here. And that was back in the 30s, that was transportation then. And of course, I think they had a car too at that time, but they still had an old horse and buggy. This is, of course, myself and my brother Fred, my brother Joe, my sister Grace, and sister Corina. I was from a family of 12. And 2 of them I never knew, but I can remember when there was 10 of us that sat down at the table. And all gone but 3 of us now. This is Freddie Young and his wife. And this is our Uncle Steve I was telling you about that was running the hoist. And well, that's me and both together, but that's he that was the engineer. This is my mother's family. And Grandpa and Grandma had the first restaurant in Marceline.
What was that?
It was, what was it?
Yeah, what was the name of it?
It didn't have a name.
It just...
It was a covered wagon on wheels. And he run this to feed the right-of-way people, is where they started. And it was setting, let's see, Miss Doll, you don't know where she lives over there, where her house burnt, her kids building a new one. That would be on, would that be on Lake Street? Yeah. Yeah. On Lake Street. Well, Lake Street was the toughest street in Marceline to begin with. An awful lot of history about Lake Street in the beginning of Marceline. You know, a lot of it hasn't been told. And I'll tell you another interesting thing. I helped Marceline celebrate the 25th celebration, their 50th, their 75th, and their 100th.
Oh.
Probably get you at first, but about 4 years old, she when the celebrated 25th. Nevertheless, I'm sure. And so anyway, Grandpa and Grandma had this first restaurant, and this is my mother. And when we had this old covered wagon, had steps, and Grandpa, he had another team wagon, he'd go busting, I guess, somewhere to get supplies. And the men come in one evening, and they had water and barrels, you know, he kept him busy hauling water and everything, that's all they had, you know. And, of course, when they tracked, they just turned the right away. And, so anyway, why, the men sitting and watched through climbing in and out of that wagon, and they said, well, that would be enough of that. So we just jacked up, took the hose off, and put it down the ground. We had to just sit there. And Mother said that, boy, that was sure an improvement, you know, for Grandma. Then later, right along where the overhead bridge is, this side, the overhead bridge, they had a restaurant there, right in there where, Jones Body Shop is, in there somewhere, they had a restaurant. But that was the first one in Marceline. Covered wagon was the first, then they graduated from that over and built this other. It was we had a table downstairs. Miss Steiner told me this Frank Steiner. Did you ever hear of Homer Green?
Is that Judge Green?
Brother.
His brother.
Of course I knew both, you know, but Homer and I were good friends. And but anyway, well, Homer got to drinking, and he was a nice fella, but that alcohol just does things to people. It changes them, changes their personality and everything. But anyway, we were friends and we stayed friends. And he had a real estate business in Earl. We had a coal and real estate business, a coal office where they shipped coal in, you know. Right from the post office, where the Landrath company is, well, yes. And he had a building there. And so anyway, when Homer died, him and his wife were separated, but they weren't divorced. And of course, when they put Hope when it came back here, I guess we had been friends that they thought were closer together. They come to our house anyway. So then they wanted me to settle for his estate, and I did. And we got it all down to where he was going to do something with his office supplies. And he had one of those lower top desks in all perfect shape. It was just perfect. Of course, the old-time typewriter, and so anyway, all three of the girls and Mule and Tina, and they said, well, we're just going to give that all to you in this table. And so I said, well, all right, and I thought, the reason they haven't got the money to take that desk. Anybody knows they'd like to have that lower top desk. So this one of the girls did, I guess two of them did in Kansas City. But anyway,
No, just sell it.
we had to move the old building, and they wanted to put it on the lot so we could sell the lots, and it wouldn't sell very good. The old building had run down. It's clean, you know, and it hadn't been repaired or anything, painted or nothing, and you know, they run down pretty quick, and you quit taking care of them. And so anyway, I brought it down here, and but the table, I said, Dirk Steiner's, Big Steiner's had a clothing store in Marceline at the beginning of Marceline. And where the lower link is, there was a sawmill there. And back up towards the railroad, there was a big walnut tree grew. So the Steiners had that tree, built that tree, and had it cut, and had lumber made out of it, this sawmill, and made these tables that they put down through the center of the storage pile merchandise on. Well, when the Steiners quit, they gave Dirk one of the tables, and Homer one. And this Homer's girl gave his to me, and I had it downstairs. But it never was finished. It's just rough sawed, you know, the long of it. But Miss Steiner told me, Miss Frank Steiner, she said that's the history of the table. That's where it comes from, and that's how it's coming. stuff, and they did. And my brother lived at this one. He lived in Roseville, Kansas. So you think of it. And I said, oh, you go right by,
Sally.
huh?
Sally.
Sally, and you go right by Sally's house. Yeah, he said, sure do, why? I said, I want to say something. So I took him out, oh, he said, hold the desk. I said, yes, I want you to take it to Sally's. He said, I sure will. He said, let's just call her and tell her to put on the coffee pot. He was good friends to him, you know. He said, let's just tell her to put on the coffee pot about what time. And she'll have, so she can have somebody to help me unload it. So we called her, and oh, she was just thrilled. There's all those she said all the time, said, no, we give it to you. And I said, no, you didn't. I just took care of it till we did it to you. You didn't give it to me. But anyway, she got the desk. So, Homer went with me for several years. She was the secretary in the office, you know. And so he bought us some real nice rings, and I mean, by the time that he died, they were real valuable rings, diamonds, you know. They were big diamonds. So they gave me this typewriter. The typewriter is in good shape and still is, but it's old. And I had it out there in the building, and I went to move it for some reason or another. There's some nice cover on it. I heard something jingle. Whoa, wonder what that was. I said, it don't sound like anything in the typewriter to me. Look at it again. What in the world could that be? It just wasn't the right kind of jingle. It would be something loose in the typewriter, you know. I took the cover off and I turned it up, and there hung in two diamond rings tied with a string up underneath that typewriter. So, of course, you didn't have to be a diamond expert to know what they were, you know. And so I took them off and I brought them in here and I said, look here, boy, what I got for you. She looked at them, she said, where in the world did you get that? I said, that's one of that typewriter. The girls gave me. So you were working downtown Kansas City at, yeah, and I called her. And I said, what did you do with your rings that Homer got you? Wedding ring and then oh, she said, now, she said, you know, he found it and drank them up. I said, he did? She said, yes, he did. Said, I sure. I'm going to pull it now, too. I see that thing's getting awful close. So anyway, why, I said, no, you didn't. I said, I've got your ring. She said, Nelson, you could not have. I said, how would you get them? I said, that's under the typewriter. She said, what? I said, Homer would do things like that. I said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll come to Kansas City tomorrow, we'll bring them to you. And also, when she comes, she just cried and cried, you know. But I think just happy to have them. And
See, they just separated, then you was divorced.
she said, now you see, we knew who to give the stuff to. Oh, there was something. Because that cake got the name of a giant cake. Yes, and let's see, that was the equivalent of three layers German chocolate cake. That was the first time when I baked. That was your mother's 86th birthday. And you see, I got to thinking about it. I thought, 86 candles on the cake? Well, however you can put them on there,
She's down Pioneer, isn't
no, down in the basement.
Oh.
We had all of our folks there. And,
she didn't go when she was 92.
No. And, so anyway, I kept worrying about I was going to set that cake on. So we was building houses then, and I knew a builder over at Needville, Cartman, he was a tenant there. And so I just kept studying about one night. It come to me. I got up and went down to the basement and got some cardboard, and I cut out that pattern of that. And the next morning I took it over to him and I said, could you make that? Could anybody make this? Said, you got a pattern to go by. And so I told him what I wanted to do. Yeah, he said, I'll make it for you. And he did. And so then, no, that one I made at Pioneer. I made one at Pioneer, and we said 200 people. And remember, I had an extra board in there and set that up on a board. I believe it would have been 5 cakes, 5 to the equivalent for that. And everybody said it was good. I don't know more than not, but they cleaned it up. So, that's Dorothy's uncle. He was waterman over at Mobley for, I guess, he was trying to be her aunt, Mr. Dean. That's her grandfather and her father. And this is her whole family, her sisters and mothers, brothers. This here's the uncle. This schoolhouse, this was an old schoolhouse that just started to tear it down. Right in the Tonka, I started buying that land. And what we did, we bought, I don't know how much we had, 1,000 acres, I guess. We started that in that Tonka.
How did you do that?
Huh?
How did you do that? How did you start it?
Well, that was my pipe dream. Only what they got down here ain't nothing. What I had, and I really had it set up. But I told you about having that kidney stone and all the problems I had with it. Well, they thought I was going to die. Everybody did but Dorothy. And what them things done, they beat us out $175,000. That's a dirty word, Tonka's thing. But it's incorporated, as Fairview Lake Incorporated, and it is right now. But a lot of people care about that. They don't, they do things their way. And what it got in on, well, I was in the hospital having all those problems, And so, of course, they supposed to change the name of it to Not Company. That's supposed to be Indian name for big man. But it's not so, because I wrote it down. And it don't mean nothing. It's not somebody that stuck it out of the phone. Because I've had two, the grossest experts on Indian affairs. And one of them even took it to the University of Minnesota, where they have so many Indian languages there. And it all through it, and he couldn't find it nowhere. It was never in there. So it didn't mean nothing. It's just somebody that thought that'd be a good thing to do, but it don't have a meaning. But anyhow, this schoolhouse was where they went to school, her dad and him, and so I could get down to be fixing and turn it down. Let's see, this is Jerry, that's Fred's boy, my brother's boy, there. That's well, it's Dorothy and a lot of things. Melissa doesn't understand it all. And that's Dorothy's sister's daughter, Patricia. And I guess this is all of them here. Marceline, Betty, Dorothy, all of them in jail. All just some family. And what's this is here? And Lucy Lloyd, that was in Charlesville. And Nellie, that was 3 cousins there. And this is Dorothy. She sells fireworks. Maybe you've been there, not fireworks, I don't know.
My sisters do that.
Huh?
My sisters are in fireworks. They buy gauze and gauze of fireworks.
Oh, when I worked for the Standard Oil Company, we had a contest, Missouri, Kansas. And, so anyway, this was my foreman right here. And he come out to me at the end. I was sitting in a truck out there, and I was studying this thing over, He come up there, what are you doing? I said, well, there's this contest they sent out here. Oh, he said, Thornton always said that, you couldn't ever win it. And I said, he said I couldn't. Well, he said it'd be impossible. He said that, well, them big dealers out there in Kansas has got all that big territory. He said, well, they haven't learned how you're just getting started. And I said, well, they must have thought I had a chance. They sent this stuff out here. I knew I was winning. Well, he said, you did. Well, let's see about that. And boy, I went to work. And I did win. And the payoff was among other things, was king and queen for a day. It was a liberty. Did you ever hear the liberty? Oh, that was one of the greatest things in the Midwest, was the liberty in St. Joe Hotel. And this week evermore, but then it was moved in and really something, and had my name and rights across the lobby, and on all the meals and the doors and welcome camp and all this shit, and this is, they had a banquet, they had 3 banquets that went overnight, for 3 straight nights, in Liberty. And of course that's working out there, and I don't even know the other people anymore, but they were people worked in the office, And but when it all cleared away, I had it run by a big majority. So no problem, nobody close. That's quite a snowstorm there. And here is quite a deal. This here got in the national magazine. This is over here at Dalton, Missouri. You ever hear of Dalton? The colored black kids couldn't go to school with white. So they had a school and a high school over here at Dalton. And a farm, big farm. This school's on a big farm. And I'm a beekeeper. I keep bees. I have bees. I've always had. And so I was secretary of the North Central Missouri Beekeepers Association. And they would place one of these in a hive like this, and everything to take care of to any school that had an agriculture class that would teach beekeeping. Maybe just 2 or 3 or whatever would teach somebody beekeeping. And so we had several. Well, the schools just left on, they had agriculture classes because the bees pollinate the fields, the seeds. There's so many ways we're connected with our agriculture every day, really besides hunting. And one night, Paul called me. He said, is it true that your organization will furnish the form of these and their equipment that anyone has an agriculture class in high school? I said, that's true. He said, well, I wonder if you'd post one to us. And I didn't know who he was. And I said, I don't know who you are, but what don't make no difference to me. I said, if you're in our area, we'll furnish it. Well, he said, I'm a black superintendent at a black school. And I said, well, we don't know no color. So I said, there's no color mentioned in it. So, yeah, you're fine. So we went over there and set it up on a truck. We had this, this is a screened-in thing here. And we just set it up, and we got over there, and he said, well, I didn't want it that way. He said, I wanted to take the boys down here and cut a bee tree to go on the farm and teach them how to pick them out of the tree and put them in a hive. Well, fine and dandy. We'll sure do it. So, anyway, this one here, he was a president that year. That's a doctor, Tripper, Dr. Martin Tripper. who that was. And, maybe these people now. Uncle Bill McCall there. That's I believe that's the superintendent right there. And that's Arthur Arthur Hensley. And of course, myself. And then how come this? I thought, if you have this picture and get this, did you ever hear of Julie Spencer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was over South New Canada. And she worked for Mr. Bliss in the studio at Brookfield. And she came over here one day and she said, Mr. Randall said, what is that hard to do something for me? And I said, like what? Well, she said, I want to get started in the photograph business and I want you to promote me. Oh, I said, I wouldn't know about promoting the photograph. Oh, yes, you would. But I just thought about everybody and said, I just come up with you. Said, I want you to do it. So then she told me that's what she'd like, and I said, well, fine and dandy, I'll do the best I can. And, well, anyway, I called her on this deal. I thought, boy, this is, what didn't know it was going to turn out like it did, see. Well, but there's other pictures where she got right on the truck, we were right down the woods with those trucks, and cut this new tree. And loaded on the truck and brought it right up there, that's right up on the school ground, right in front of the school. And just as we split that log over and saying, these, he goes in and turns the whole school out. And there was only one child got stung, and that was his little daughter. And I think she ranks the beat on her. But I thought, well, when he done that, I thought, well, we were in trouble. All these kids would get stung. But they sure didn't. And, but anyhow, he put that in the National School Magazine. That was good. Of course, he was getting something done for the black, or anything there, and they used it. And, this is where this is, New Orleans or somewhere. Let's find out here. Old Mexico. This is down Mexico City. We've been in all the major cities in North America. We have. And this is down there. That's really beautiful down there. This is my dad, and this is my sister. She wrote poetry, and I'd like you to read that. This was a tintype. A tintype. That's Old Crow School out in Pennsylvania. Something right here. Come on airplane, that's the brand show for that. And this here is Mary Tuffy was, we grew up together. We was just friends, and I'll tell you how good he was. Just even in the service, and after the war, when he come back to Kansas City, he went to work in a pretty big liquor shingles and sort of thing. And I hadn't seen him for quite a while. We got up one Sunday morning, and I said to Dorothy, I said, let's go down and see, I called him Raymond. And he was a fellow that been knocked around, done all raising a while, somebody else raising a while, and just, but he was a real guy. I tell you he was. And he didn't get to go to school much, but he could do things, and that was him in his life. And I told you, I thought I got killed when I was 14, and mother was sick, so she had him appointed as my guardian. Irish Scott, his dad was the first doctor on this prairie.
Really?
And he too was quite a fella. And he's the one that put books to his waterworks in, the very first they had, and they took the water out of wells. He laid it all out for them and told them what they could do and how to make it work, and they just hired him to do that, and he made it work for them. And so he was the father of their first waterworks. This here is the father and mother of Betty and us, but still up to his daughter. They've been for 65 years. And this here is Dorothy and Helen Moon. Bob Moon was the sheriff over at Lincoln County. And we worked for the Bradshaw Company. And sometimes these people run out of them. Not so much on us, but on the Bradshaw Company. And we have to go get them. And many times I'd take the card with me. Right there in that picture, Dorothy was a deputy sheriff of Lincoln County. Because he didn't have no deputy. And we was going to go to down south of Missouri and pick up a guy. And of course, you had to leave a deputy. And he said, well, this deputy I'll go. And more than that, more than 36 hours. We'd gone. We left 3 o'clock in the morning and we got back the next day. So she was a deputy sheriff that long anyway. And Lincoln County. This here was a good twin boy. He had a beautiful horse. And he did look back on here. Found me stagnant. This here was my second grade school teacher. And I was always a gardener. I always liked to raise gardens because in the 30s, when I asked Dorothy to marry, so we was in the house, and the family was all in there, and of course, that's the way it's done, and we didn't want to answer. But when we go home, she got on the porch, I get that good night kiss, and I said, I asked you a question and you didn't answer me. And she said, well, I think we ought to talk about it first. And I said, well, what is it to talk about? And she said, well, I don't want a man that goes to the pool hall. I said, we got that solved. What's next? And she said, I don't want to ever get the welfare relief, they called it, I think, then. Reform. I said, you got it. And, for sure, we never went hungry. We never had a hungry minute our whole life. But, I mean, we sleep lines, and we was no different than anybody else. We didn't have no money, we didn't have nothing. But I believe about 3 acres of gardening, and we had some fruit trees. And she canned between 4,000 and 5,000 for fruits and vegetables. And we raised our meat and had chickens and had eggs. And we lived high on the hogs, and the others was in the soup line. But this is one of the years that Miss Buell was my second grade school teacher, Miss Grace Buell. So I called her up one day and I took this, I baked her this cake, a lemon chocolate cake. I don't know what was in that, but you can see all kinds of vegetables, tomatoes and potatoes and pumpkin, and the table was just plumb full. And she said, this is the nicest thing that ever happened to me. And she said, don't you tell anybody. She said, let me tell them, I want to tell them. So she wrote letters to her friends. And that was all right. Here is Dr. Elliott, his family. They were good friends of ours. And, let's see. So he was in there too, right here. Yeah, she's right here. Yes, there she is. And Doc and her boy, and what was her name? He now is at the head governor of the state of California.
Right.
And of course I was signing, I put my furs on him, took his picture. I said, man, you got to become a signer, and he did. This lady here was named Hunter. And she put the first clothes on me I ever had on, and she lived out at the top of the hill. Of course she lived. And that's Mr. McConnell. And Yeah, it just kind of felt. That was taken in, when he got sick, and that was taken in Salt Lake City.
I was supposed to ask, like, what types of businesses were in town and who ran them?
Oh, and here in Marceline?
Yeah.
Okay, when? Well, let's see. There was a time we had, 6 or 8 poultry houses in Marceline. And, they bought, poultry, they bought chickens and eggs and cream and hides. Lots of farmers did their own butchering, they bought the hides from the animals. And, let's see if I can think of Lindsay Buster was one. And Powell, probably remember Powell was right in there where, Keenest is now. There was no hotel there. That was, that spot was a hotel. And down below, of course, was business. And he had a feed store and poultry there. And then across the street over there from, the lower rank, and I'll be right next door to the lower rank, was Lindsay Buster, they were the biggest. And, they were Huxley wagons out to the company bought, you know. We were in there. Then there was TV Reed. That would have been, the Downing's, connection, Miss Downing.
Mary June's
No.
granddaddy.
Well, yeah, Mary June's brother was a Reed. TV Reed. They were in the, across from Bobby Cup in the old pink and orange building. They had a food store in there and a poultry house. And then, there was 2 or 3 others scattered around the little town, but at one time there was 8 poultry houses in Marceline where they bought cream, eggs, and that's partly what caused our slump is all these things, because all of them employed people, you know. And take the east of Marceline, put every 40 acres had a family on it, and a big family. And they had a cow and chickens, and they sold little cream and eggs, and done like we did, they raised fruit and vegetables, you know, and preserved them, and raised big families. Huh?
What about apples? What they had?
Well, they were, Apple Slaughterhouse, they had 2 locations. They had a grocery store where, the insurance company was on the corner, Ferris. And then behind that, on them lots back there was a tile building, and they had this, feed store and cream and eggs, poultry. They had a poultry business there. And then Barrows had a poultry business and store along there on Bristol Street. On the Eagles built a big building first, where right across from all them boys got that cleanup place now. Harrison's, I believe, got in there. Right across from Bristol Street, and then they had they had a huge building here, and then later it was sold to the Catholics, and they had a school out of it. And I guess it was a school clear up until Paul McCartney built this thing down where it is now. But there also was this building in there where they had this poultry house and food store. And then right up next to the overhead bridge, let's see, the old big house is burnt now, but,
Parker.
where Parker's house was, the old Peter house that moved up there, was a little barn. And, of course, they went rigs, you know, 2 horses and a buggy, and 1 horse and a buggy, or whatever, you know, and then you leave the horse in the town, they take care of it and feed it for you, and all this sort of thing. And then where the hospital sat, the minute had a big little stable. It was built of wood, But, and it was built like a barn, but it covered the whole lot there. And, they had the more fancy, they had the fancy buggies, and so the more aristocratic people come to town wanted the better rig than some of the others had, see?
You mean where Chastain's is,
Huh?
where the old hospital was?
Yes. Well, it burnt, and Putnam bought the lot and built the, oldest Putnam bought the lot and built the hospital. And, of course, it was going out because all the insurance companies were the best prospects. And,
A lot of grocery stores.
oh yeah, there's grocery stores all over town. And I expect there was half a dozen or more out on Main Street. They were Hires, and Outlaw Slogan Hop, Statz's, who?
Right and Downing.
Light and Downing, and Light and Downing was in the building when Mom's restaurant is. There was Atlas Slogan Hop on the corner where Ferris is, and the next building then was Horace Stacks, you had one there. And we were going down, and I don't recall now what all was right in the buildings there, just right off, but across that little alleyway there, then on Main Street, or Kansas Avenue, there was Tires grocery store. That, well, Tom Stanley later, Frank Stanley there bought it, and he died, his son took it over, and then, oh, I don't know what all was in there since, but that radio shack was in there. And, but there's a grocery store there. Then Birch's had one in there where that video thing,
Eventually.
huh?
Eventually.
Uh-huh. And let's see, of course, Williams had groceries too. Williams, they had groceries. And then there was another grocery store down there. And then one of the old buildings down there, Walter Scott Gallagher's, had a garage that this Gallagher's I used to tell him, it was the daddy of the flag. Well, his dad. And of course, he worked in there, but his dad had a garage in there. And then over where Bob Cup is, on the north end there, there's Gardner's, well, the Gardner, Henry Gardner's son lives in Buckland now, had a restaurant up there, but he's retired now. But anyhow, they had a garage, they had the video and cars agency on the ground floor. Then the upstairs was a dance hall. And this Sherman Road that lives out here at the junction, you know, when we moved the house back over there. Well, he was just a young man then, and he was raised doing dances. So, anyway, what they would do then, we had prohibition. And they go to those dances, and of course, there would hardly be no lights, because they were in the grate, and you want to go see them, you know. Tanking. So he goes over to the light plant, him and, I don't know who the other companies with him, and they stole a section of fire hose. And the hydrant was right down at the bottom there. And of course, summertime, it was hot, and had the windows up, no fans or air conditioning in, you know. And he calls up there, and his buddy turns the water on, and he washes the dance hall all the morning. I did not want to do that, but Rich Freeman was the night marshal. And he seen him doing something, and he thought, well, what they're up to. So he hid one of them buildings across the street and watched them. Well, he too was a new business, and he thought they'd get what was coming to him, so he was done with them. He didn't get out. So I guess it turned out to be a wet dance.
And where were the banks at?
Oh,
Bank?
the First National Bank, well, I'll never forget it. It was located down in Napa. Yes.
Oh,
And I got my pay on Saturday, And Dorothy took it to the bank, and we should pay our bills, you know. We had $67. That's what the paycheck, and believe me, that was a big check. That was a lot of hours out of the coal mine. And that was 2 weeks, too. That was a 2 weeks pay. And they didn't open the bank that closed it on $67, and we had nothing. And now I'm going to tell you, that hurt. It really did. And of course, the Lancaster was supposed to be friends to my family, you know. They come here in the early days, you know, and they were told her to put that money, you know, and they would have told her something, you know, and not had to exclude anything either, but they know that bank wasn't going to open on Monday, and they took our check, and I didn't like the Lancasters after that. But the husband was there, and Mr. Trader was across the street where the bank is now. I believe that's the only banks they've ever had in town. I don't know of any others.
School.
Well, the first school in Marceline was up by the airport. Walt Disney went to the school.
Wow.
And they built Park School while Walt Disney was going to school. And I always said that...
But that's where the IGA is now.
I always said that Walt Disney, I and my daughter, we all had one thing in common. We sat the same desk in school. And of course, she was older and I was older than her, but nevertheless, that did happen. And...
Because he had his initials carved on it.
Yeah. It sure did. And we thought it was his desk.
I think I see it in the school.
Yeah, it was high
That was
school.
your dad?
Yeah, sure was. Walt Disney's dad built, and was a carpenter on this old barn when I first got here. That's the only one left in the country. And his dad come here as a carpenter. And Ronnie Montgomery was a contractor. And he too was they were the Montgomerys, and folks were good friends, you know. And the Montgomerys was over here and had supper with the folks one evening, and Dad wanted a new barn. And already was building barns all around, but they'd building big fields, you know, and wood going holes and putting together wooden pins. And so while they was eating supper, Dad told Mr. Montgomery, he said, well, I'd like to have a new barn, but he said $300 is all the money I've got. He said, and that just didn't even think about building a barn for $300. So when we got to eat, Mr. Montgomery was quite a architect too. And he sat down and he brought this barn out for Dad. He said, now I can build that barn for you for $300. And he said, that barn will be there when all these others is gone. And it's still there, and the others are gone. And it's empty, I guess, the half a dozen cyclones that I know of. And two tornadoes. And it's still there. So he knew what he was talking about. And sure, all the rest of them are gone. And but Walt Disney's father worked for him as a carpenter, and he worked on this farm here.
What about churches?
What?
Where were the churches at?
Churches, well, let's see. Presbyterian was there where Bergman is on that lot. We had a black church. There's a trail on the lot across from the Eagles there. There was a black church there, I think it was a Baptist. Might not have been, but I believe it was. I believe it was a Baptist church. Then over for, not where Charlie Edgar lives, but on the corner west of him, when they built that house, that was a colored church. And then we had a colored school. Marceline had a colored grade school. And it was located, let's see, where Annie,
Ward,
huh?
Annie Ward.
No, well, where we own the house down on Walker Street, 501, you walk across the street from that, that's where the colored school was. And then they built it down, you know, this and down here, the ball line, that was, they built that. That was the colored school. See, more churches,
Christian Church.
the Methodist Church, the first Methodist Church, was built right there where, this Taylor's house, you know, Smith lives there now. And the house next this way, that's a line, you know, they tore it down, Frank that did, and built that house. So that after they built the new Methodist Church, that's where it's at, that's the location now. Now there was another one ahead of that, but that was before my time, and I don't recall really understanding what it was. Catholic Church is where it's always been. It's had a lot of disasters, but they joined and built it back, and it's still there. The Methodist Church, I thought that in the Baptist Church, that's this Baptist Church there is 1914 it was built. But the church that was there was a free building. It was on that lot. And it was built there in the beginning of Marceline.
First Baptist.
I'd say 88, And Christian Church, it's where it was organized. My father and mother were charter members of the Christian Church. And like I told you, my dad had the coal mine. So they never bought no coal. He just kept the bin full of coal. Brought them all in on the ship. And then he died, of course, after he died, mother couldn't do that. And it just wasn't in the cards. But until he died, they never bought no coal. He just kept the bin full. Let's see, I think it was just the Bethany Baptist, so it's split off of the first Baptist,
Hello?
And other church over
just
there,
fine. How are
split
you?
off the Christian church.
Had a good day or good, or nothing, or what?
Well, let's see.
Oh, what was that?
Not the churches. But we had a school, it's called the Urbeck School.
Well, what do you?
And it was down
Like
on
to
Wall
go down,
Street,
though.
like we were doing the
Oh,
country
that's
club
good.
there, on the east side there, that's where
Well,
it
they're
was.
coming down. He went to the
And I
doctor
called it the
yesterday,
Urbeck
but
School.
they wasn't, the
And,
doctor wasn't
I
pleased
don't know what
with
they
what
call
he
that one.
thought.
That was the first
You
one.
know, that you should
But,
be, somebody go for another week,
But it
and
was just
you
like a
know.
couple of schools, you know.
He
We had to
really
know that
threw
school
it
was
like
too, but it had
he
2 or 4
threatened
rooms.
to put him down for 3
And,
days.
but it, nothing was going on it. Wouldn't last long, it
And,
got worse.
because he said that, that you
Of
just
course,
can't,
those are the old football schools,
uh,
that they tore down.
you know, there,
That's
when
part
you
of
get
school.
down in the lakes like
I guess
that,
I'd take you to
it's
school.
hard to get rid of it.
What did you do for recreational activities?
That's right.
What did you do for recreation?
What did I do?
Well, that's great.
Well, really, I had the hobbies at airplanes. That would have been, I spent a lot of
Well,
time with
that-
airplanes.
That was something, man.
And, so I kind of had it in my blood, and I still have, but, I tell you why I quit airplanes. You might say, well, what was you know, why is now? I taught both my kids to fly while we were raised in Valley. They both got top
His
line.
name is Bob.
Way back then, nobody did that. And, I don't know, it just looked like I achieved what I never mind. And Dorothy would not go. So I was taking the plane up to the city to have it. That's taking up, really go on and go along, you know.
Well,
But
you
the
know,
decisions about just pay the bill, that's all
kind
we
of
do.
studying under,
So we were shooting in the car and getting, we have to leave it to
well,
bring it back and going down.
where you
Just see all the line to get down the lead, see. And this tractor went out there when 41 goes south off of 24th, they cut the other side. Because she missed it, that, she's a good driver. And her years of driving no accident,
Well, it's probably-
got lost off the mile.
Probably the most of the
And,
dogs in Peekskill goes to.
She'd handle it before they get hurt. But that told me
You know,
something.
because I've heard it's a lot of.
And was coming home with her and I said, Dorothy, you're not never gonna go with him.
Oh, what's that?
She's doing commercial, but she wouldn't, not in the fuel plant. She said, no, you were nobody else. Of course, the fuel plant's gonna go up, Dorothy, but I'm just afraid.
Oh, well.
And I said, well, of course, the kids is gone. I said, the airplane's gotta go.
Oh,
She's
that's
hanging out.
that's
And she's always been sweet, I'll tell you she has. And I told these sweet folks, well, that's true. And they would complain about nothing, you know.
Well, now he's the one
And,
that's been there and won.
just that, she complained a little bit, it wouldn't be so hard, you know. Never. She never complained. Then I got to pay her all the hours she get at home.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had most of the kids with me and gone, you know. I just got to say to myself, the piece of it. She just does things too much for herself.
Operating company, Rainbow.
So when I got it back, I advertised it, so, you know, I had went to, maybe you just with somebody or something like that, but that's the only way I go out there for. And, well, like I said, I got in my blood, and I'm going to rattle that. But, well, I love to fly, I had lots of close calls flying. Done a lot of things I shouldn't have done.
Oh, I
But
know.
the Lord took care of me. I fell 12,000 feet in 1806.
Oh,
Right out here. I was in Dorothy Center, like and didn't know it.
Now,
was here.
what's bad news?
And, what it was, I had a friend up in Illinois, and named was Hamilton. And,
You know
Tell
what?
you how good a pilot he was.
She said that.
He flew the first V-29
She got out
separation.
today and she did it.
And won by itself, full.
She went back there and eat. And she
And,
said,
they didn't know because we would make it.
to the dinner,
And it was
somebody
terrible,
already
it
down
took off
there.
in the
First
field.
day he got out.
And then they used to certain altitudes where they used to read the orders. And when we went through the bush, it was a map to England.
They just give him time,
And,
you know,
it
maybe
took
like
off.
a certain time.
But the rest of it returned. And of course, he didn't know that after he got back, but he was the first one to know it. And, of course, that boy, he made it, so it was very wrong why, you know, goofy.
Yeah, that really is.
And, so he come down, well, I've been up there, up at,
I don't know how they
in,
don't handle.
Chicago, the other side of Chicago, he, you know, the other side of Chicago, he was a crop duster too. He was like the, I don't know if you're afraid up in there or not, but a lot of our green beans and sweet corn and peas and this sort of thing, way from where it is. And they crop dusters, you know, and keep the bugs out of it, and, you know, fertilizers and all those things they do in airplanes. And he was just a top pilot.
Where she lives now,
And, so he come down.
but
and
maybe
just,
she's come on
he
the
said,
other day.
it had a 275 lost motor on it, I don't know what that is or not. That's a big, extra big motor for that airplane. And, so he said, would you like to
Oh.
take me a ride? I said, yeah, I sure would. I'd like to fly. So we went out and we got in there. And of course, I never could get, the new planes, I couldn't buzz her enough, I couldn't bother bad enough to get her out of the house, you know. And I said to Hamilton, I said, boy, I'll get her out of there. I said, I'm going to pay her this talk. Well, I did, no, other people see. And she could have her own food, but she didn't know who it was. So I went on to Kansas City, then come back up to St. Joe, and coming back,
You know what
I
though?
was up 14,000 feet, and
That's
then I
really
said, now I'm going to, will she leave? No, he said she did, big, inside or out.
Wheelchair.
So,
I don't know
anyway,
how
I
come they put
started
that
on
in
the
there.
steps, and they, you know. He said, what are you doing?
Sure
I
do.
said, well, I want to leave it, but
Wheelchair.
I want to get upstairs, I want to higher up, I want more space under me. Oh, he said, you
Right.
from here,
They,
and you don't have to.
and then I seen two
Oh, I'm going
on
on
over
up
on the
16
next page. And
Well, I did, and by the time I did, it was coming from Brazil, and the time I did, of course,
It
it was,
said
when I done it loose, I've been just
the
putting this straight
United
north of here.
Church and the
And within a quarter
Commerce
mile.
is,
And,
gonna have
I come
some
up with
kind of
that.
a
Come
fundraiser.
down, and he
To
said,
get
don't
money.
build it up over
Well, I don't know
275.
what they need the money
Got down
for.
here, this
Is
to
because the
275.
Shriners give them
Come across,
$35
come up
to
here
go
to
down
the
there
top.
and
And I was gonna spend
back.
that,
For
and
gas,
that's
you
the,
know.
well, that's the easy for you to lose altitude, and of course, the airport's back there, you know, under.
Hey, I went.
He got the same idea, see what I do, he told him to spend, see what I do. Of course, we
I
was way
said,
up
well,
to
not unless
16,000
they
feet.
just raised it till they can
And
stay down there
boy,
with
I
us,
have
you know,
to
or
stop.
something. Or
Come
something
out
like
back
that,
on the
that
table.
they're not gonna come
And,
down.
should I be Wednesday, I could get through it. Well, I just neutralized the controls and hooked him. And the best thing that ever happened. Well, that got him off of the controls, so.